didn't scream when I found out my husband was cheating. I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry into a phone or collapse onto the floor. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. Because after 34 years of marriage, betrayal doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives quietly, like something that has always lived with you, waiting for the right moment to speak. I was 62 years old, and in that moment I understood something people never tell women like me. The world believes your age decides how much disrespect you will tolerate. They thought time had softened me. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought I would accept whatever was handed to me just to keep peace. They were wrong. My name is Bernice. I was raised to believe that loyalty meant staying. The women before me stayed. They endured. They adjusted. They swallowed disappointment and called it strength. I watched women hold families together with quiet sacrifices that were never written down, never remembered, never repaid. When I met Richard, I was young enough to believe love was protection. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't powerful, but he was ambitious. And ambition has a way of convincing women to wait. We married with nothing but hope. No house, no savings, just promises whispered late at night about a future that felt endless. The early years were hard. Money came and went. Stress lived with us. Richard chased his business dream while I made sure the ground beneath us stayed solid. I worked when I needed to. I stretched every dollar. I cooked, encouraged, reassured. When he doubted himself, I carried his confidence for him. I didn't complain. I believed sacrifice was temporary. When his business finally started to grow, everything changed. Quietly. People began to admire him. Invitations came. Compliments followed. His family praised him loudly and praised me softly. They called me a good woman, the kind of praise that really means invisible but useful. That admiration faded when I stopped being central to his success. The first warning wasn't another woman. It was distance. Richard started dressing better. His phone never left his hand. Conversations ended early. He spoke about plans that didn't include me, as if my presence was optional. When you've lived with someone for decades, you don't need proof to feel abandoned. You feel it in the pauses, in the absence of curiosity, in the ways someone looks past you instead of at you. One night, sitting in the same room, but living in different worlds, I asked him gently if there was something he wanted to tell me. He laughed, not nervously, not guiltily. Confidently, that laugh stayed with me longer than the truth itself. Weeks later, a message request appeared on my phone. A woman named Olivia, young, calm, polite. She didn't insult me. She didn't threaten me. She said she thought we should talk. I didn't reply. I didn't confront Richard. I didn't even say her name out loud. Instead, I watched. Silence sharpens your senses. I noticed how Richard suddenly controlled finances he had never cared about before. I noticed how his family stopped calling me directly. I noticed how decisions that once involved discussion were now announced to me. Eventually, Richard told me he didn't apologize. He explained. He said he had been unhappy for years. He said Olivia made him feel alive. He said he deserved happiness. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. At our age, Bernice, you should understand. At our age, as if loyalty expires, as if a woman's worth quietly fades. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I listened, and something inside me disconnected completely. His family didn't wait to hear my side. They chose him immediately. They spoke to me carefully, like someone handling fragile glass. They told me not to fight. They reminded me the house was in Richard's name. The business was his. They said stress wasn't good for me at my age. One of them said, "You've had a good life. Don't complicate things now." That sentence told me everything I needed to know. They didn't see me as a partner. They saw me as a chapter that had ended. The divorce moved quickly, too quickly. Papers arrived ready, conversations were rushed. There was urgency in their voices, like they were afraid I might start thinking. I smiled. I nodded. I asked for copies. I said I needed time. What they didn't realize was that memory is evidence. I remembered conversations from decades earlier. Agreements made when success was uncertain. Contributions that never made it onto paper but shaped everything that followed. I went to a lawyer quietly. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't dramatize. I told the truth. He reviewed everything slowly. Then he looked at me and said, "They assumed you didn't know. They assumed my silence meant ignorance. They assumed my age meant fear. They assumed I would trade fairness for peace. They were wrong. Reality arrived slowly then, all at once. Assets weren't as protected as they believed. The house wasn't untouchable. The business wasn't as secure as Richard thought. The confidence his family carried dissolved when facts replaced assumptions. Olivia disappeared when stability disappeared. Richard's family stopped calling when control slipped through their fingers. That's when Richard began to fall. Stress replaced confidence. The man who once spoke with certainty began hesitating mid-sentence. His business started bleeding quietly. Partners questioned him. Doors closed without explanation. He called me once. I didn't answer. He called again weeks later. His voice sounded smaller. He didn't apologize. He asked questions. He wanted reassurance. He wanted the calm I used to give him freely. I gave him silence. Months passed. I heard Olivia had left. She hadn't signed up for uncertainty. Richard's family stopped defending him publicly. People who once praised his ambition began to distance themselves. One evening, my phone rang again. I recognized the number immediately. Richard. This time his voice cracked quietly. He said things weren't going the way he expected. He asked if we could talk. Then he asked for help. Not love, forgiveness. Help, I told him I couldn't. After the call ended, I felt no triumph, no celebration, just clarity. And then something unexpected happened. My life became quiet in a way it had never been before. Not lonely, peaceful. For the first time in decades, I woke up without carrying someone else's weight. I made decisions without explaining them. I spent money without guilt. I filled my days slowly, intentionally. People who had disappeared began reaching out again. Some out of curiosity, some out of regret, some because they finally saw me clearly. I didn't rush to rebuild anything. I let myself sit in the stillness.